So some of the things I'll be covering this morning, we're just really covering some basic things in Traction. I'll be setting up an entity, talking about connecting banks and credit cards with Plaid, or you may not want to. Either or, we'll kind of cover both options. Then we'll deep dive into the chart of accounts. We'll show you how that works and maybe some things to kind of clean up your chart of accounts if you've already started Traction. We'll touch on contacts, payments, and deposits, and then get in some different reports. We do have a wide range of folks that join these, and some of them have just basic or plus or pro. So there's three different tiers of Traction. Most of the stuff that we covered this morning is in the Traction basic level. If we do get into a little bit of the plus, I'll let you know. But usually when we get into purchasing inputs and tracking grain inventory, if I get into that part of it, that's all in the plus level. But for the most part, just getting started, that's really just the basic uh, software. So let me go ahead and get out of this and open Traction up. So I think where we'll start this morning is the dashboard, and let's get started. Some of you might be past this part already, but it is kind of a little bit of a nice refresh because you can go back here and add additional entities or add more chart of accounts. There's a couple places to do all this in Traction, but there is this place right here in the dashboard is a kind of a initial step in getting started. So setting up your entities, we will click the green box here. You'll see that I have one entity already created in Traction. I'm going to do a fresh one today, so we'll use this one moving forward for the training. We'll call this the Traction Farms LLC. It does ask you for a year-end date and year here. We're going to keep it kicking off January 1st of 2026. So it's kind of defaulting for me the way it should be. You do have to add owners here down the bottom to set up an entity. I will add a couple of owners for this farm. We'll say Michael Smith is one of them. He's a 50% owner. We'll add one more here. We'll add Dustin Smith. He's the other 50% owner. And really, that's all there is to it when you set up an entity, hit save. And one of the strengths of our software is that you can have as many entities as you want. I have two here. Now, if you had 5, 20, it really doesn't matter how many. Each of these entities is a set of books. So you'll have its own balance sheet, income statement, Schedule F, and so on. So we'll focus on the Traction Farms entity today. And we'll kind of hit right into the chart of accounts right away with this entity. So if I hit the green box here, there's a couple ways of really managing your chart of accounts. If you're in the dashboard area, you can do it here, or on the left side here, you can click chart of accounts and get to this part of the software. So a couple of different ways to get into here. I know if you're trying to do a bunch of them all at one time, it is a little bit easier if you go to step number 2 here and kind of kick things off really quick. So if you have more than one entity set up in Traction, you will have this drop down here where you can select what entity that you want to work with. Like I said, we'll start with Traction Farms. It's a brand new entity. We'll just pick the chart of accounts for that one entity down below here. So you have revenue and expenses. And we try our best to give you lots and lots of different accounts to pick from here. So we'll pick out these 4 things here, 4 crops. Now there's lots of other revenue accounts here that you can pick from. We'll just go ahead and not spend a ton of time here because I'll show you where you can do it somewhere else in Traction. But we'll choose expenses here as well: chemical, fertilizer, fuel. Definitely have seed expense. Um, all these different accounts here are really part of your Schedule F as well. So try to make this super easy for you. And we'll just add a few more. Okay, I think this is probably good enough. And we'll hit the save button. And when they are selected and saved, they will turn gray with a check mark here to kind of let you know that the account has been added. And if you were to jump to back to the chart of accounts on the left and pick out the entity here, and I'll pick Traction Farms LLC, you'll see that it is starting to build out my chart of accounts for that entity. And these are all the accounts that I just picked a few minutes ago. So everything is working as it should. So going back to let's get started. Once you get past step number 2, step number 3 is to set up your banks. So like your checking accounts, savings accounts, and there's a couple of options here. So Traction will let you connect a Plaid, which will allow you to kind of bring all your transactions in from the bank automatically. So there's thousands of banks here to pick from. Or you can just say, I don't want to connect to anything with a bank. I just want to add my checking account. So this manual button here, if you click on this, uh, very simple here. You pick out your entity. Um, so the key here for a checking account, you have to pick one entity. It won't let you pick two. So I'm going to pick Traction Farms. This is a checking account. So when I choose checking, it does default to the name checking. Now, obviously, I probably want to change that so it makes a little more sense to me. So maybe this is the F&M farm checking account. Opening balance, we'll say this is $25,000. And we will hit save and new and kind of go on to the next one. Or we'll just hit cancel here. And when I hit cancel, it automatically takes me into the account register area where I can start doing some transactions. So it's smart enough there where it's trying to send me here, and this is where you kind of spend all your time in Traction on the account register. Now, to speak a little bit about the bank connections. So if I go back to set up your banks and hit this other button here for connecting to Plaid, I do have my bank connected. I have my farm checking account connected. So when you connect to a bank, it's going to have all your accounts show up here from the bank, and you have the ability to pick out the ones that you want to connect to Traction. So some of these other accounts that you're seeing here on my screen, I don't have connected because they're my kids' accounts, and really they have nothing to do with the Traction Farms LLC entity. So this one checking account, Huntington Checking, is connected. That is the farm checking account. So if I go back to account register, and I have to switch it to my Huntington checking account here from the drop down. But just to kind of show you what this would look like, if you did connect to that bank, you'd have the first time you'd have a bunch of little warning symbols here. These little orange warning symbols are really just letting you know that this is a transaction sitting in there for you to fill the details for. Really, that's just kind of letting you know that you're not done. It does its best to fill in some details here, like the date, the memo here, and the amount. Clearing the bank is kind of nice, so you don't have to worry about it. It makes reconciling a whole lot easier if you connect the bank, but you still have work here to do, I guess is what I'm saying. So for this transaction here, so the 3/17/2026, if you wanted to fill the details in, just click on it, and this is where you go to do that. So the contacts is a popular question that we get a lot. Sometimes people say I add a contact, it doesn't appear here. Why is that? Well, I'll show you that in a little bit here. So if we were to add let's say a brand new contact here, we'll call this Nussbaum Trucking Company. This window here, we have some questions about from time to time. So whenever you add a new contact, you can add it with no details, meaning that you don't have to fill in the address, phone number, the details about the contact. You don't have to worry about doing that right away. If this is a one-time contact that you'll probably never record a transaction against in the future, it's really nice. This button here in the middle will let you do that, so you don't have to worry about having that contact kind of gum up your drop-down list. And then if you have the time currently, so if I had the time to fill in the details for Nussbaum Trucking, I can hit add details here, and this is where you get this screen. So for this particular vendor, Nussbaum Trucking, There is a category here that to really point out to. So if this is a contact that you do buy from and sell to, if you sell to that contact, make sure you choose customer here from the drop down. That's really important. Otherwise, they won't appear on the deposit side if you do a transaction. Also, we get questions about, well, I've got a vendor here, but they're used in two different entities. They're used in Huntington Farms, but also that same vendor we use for Traction Farms too. So this is where you want to kind of keep an eye on here. Make sure that when you add contacts, you're picking out the right categories, you're picking out the right entities, because that will make a difference here. You don't want to add the same contact twice, right? So just some tips to kind of know about that. Um, and also the more button here is a drop down of more options. So if you wanted to add an address here for the contact, we could do that. We'll just add an address. The other thing to point out here for contacts is this 1099 required. So if you are cutting checks to landlords for like cash rent, make sure when you add that contact that you do select here if they are a 1099 contact. That will kind of help you a little bit later down the road once you start to do your 1099s in Traction. You'll be able to sort some things and be able to do some things in Traction with 1099s. This one is not. I'm going to hit save and close. They'll take me back to where I just were. So really a lot of this stuff is filled out automatically for me. All I got to do is pick out the account here. So this is some other account here. This drop down will have all my expense accounts from the drop down list. If this was repair expense on this particular machine here, we can say this is parts. Um, there's a whole lot of things that we can get into in this 30 minutes. I'll save allocating equipment a little bit later, but if we did set up some equipment here, we could get into, that 267, where did that go to? I could go down to here and pick out the year here of that tractor and track the expense into that particular machine. So that's a lot there for you, but the allocation area is something that you don't have to do in Traction. At bare minimum, you do have to pick out the account for this, but the cost allocation side, it's really how detailed you want to get in Traction. I highly recommend you at least take a look at it and try it. I think you'll see a lot of value from that, but that's really going to be up to you. The memo down below, this is what we're getting from Plaid. So whatever we get from the bank is being put here for you. So if this was something different you want to type in, just overwrite it and you can type in, this is repairs for, John Deere tractor, and hit save. When you hit save, the warning button disappears and the transaction's completely done. I'm going to pause just for a few seconds here and see if there's any questions. Okay. I will go into a little more on the chart of accounts. Yes, we had a question. Linda, did you have a question? Okay. If you're having some issues there with Zoom, you can use the chat as well. All right, so going back to the chart of accounts. So when we were getting started, this will start to fill out, right? You can pick out your entity up here. I got Traction Farms. We're going to focus on this for the moment. A really cool thing about Traction is that you can add subheadings. We get a lot of questions about subheadings. And so if you hover over like revenue or expenses, for example, you can hover over that. You have these three dots here in the far right. And so this is where you can go to add subheadings and add accounts. So like I said, if you don't want to go back to the dashboard, you just want to just add your accounts and add your subheadings here. Everything is possible right on this screen here for the chart of accounts. To explain the difference between subheading and account, so subheadings are like a thing that it's like a folder, really. They kind of group similar accounts together. So for an example, if I look at my revenue accounts, it could be custom work. You might have a couple custom planting, custom harvesting income accounts. You might want to have just like a folder that kind of group it all together. Or for crops is a great example. I would think everybody who has traction would want to do this for revenue. So if you go to the three dots and add a subheading for revenue, like a subheading account would be like crop sales, right? So if I hit save here, you'll see that it makes a folder here and it's going to be all black. So that's not an account that you can post to. It's a folder. So I have my barley sales, corn sales. So what you can do here, if you highlight barley sales and go to the three dots and hit edit, what you want to do is focus on the bottom here. You can pick out the subheading right here, crop sales, and hit save. And what you'll see here, it will actually indent it in here. So it's actually putting barley sales underneath crop sales. And what you want to do is do this for all the crops that you have. So hit the edit button. You'll choose crop sales, hit save. I think we had soybean sales here as well. You're kind of probably seeing what I'm doing here. You kind of see where it's building this out. And we got wheat. We'll hit save. And the beauty of all this is that there is no right or wrong way of doing it. It's really totally up to you on the subheadings and how you want to lay this out. All right. Linda, you had a question here. Does the account you select display in the account register? So yes, if you go back to account register, there is this account drop down here. This is where you pick out like your different checking accounts. Like it doesn't matter what number of entities you have set up in Traction, all the checking accounts, all the savings accounts, all those cash accounts are going to appear from this drop down list here. So this is kind of where you're kind of navigating. Your credit cards would show up here. So everything's right here.
Sure. My question was, so like on this top one, you selected barley sales.
Yep.
And so back in the account register, I thought when I was in it yesterday, so I thought that account that you select does not display in the account register. But am I wrong?
Yeah, these accounts here, these are for posting things
Yep, I
too.
get that. If you
Yep.
go back to the account, if you go back to the account register,
Yep.
so like Hake Farm Services,
Yeah.
seed purchase shows. So seed purchase is the account you used?
No, actually, that's just a memo.
Okay, so
So
the account you're selecting does not display here.
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I wish it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, that's something that we'll look at maybe a little bit in the future. There's been some requests about doing more here on the account register of kind of beefing this up a little more to be
Okay.
able to see more. But at the moment, if you want to type in that here for the memo, you'd have to type in the account name, for example, for it to appear on the account register.
Yeah, that would be doing extra work, and I don't care to do that.
Okay, we'll definitely look into that. Okay. Any questions going back here to the chart of accounts? Okay, very good. And these accounts, if you, for some reason, if you need to add more, it's easy to do. You can just like hover expenses, for example. Another question that we get a lot, if you add an account here, um, again, you're picking out the entities that you want for this account. There is a drop-down box here So this drop down, are all the accounts that, again, that you can pick from. Very similar to what you just saw when you got started in Traction, the getting started drop down list. Um, so for example, if you had, let's say, livestock expense and this was vet expense, um, there is no vet expense here to pick from, right? So what you want to do is pick out the option here that's very close to it as possible. So like vet expense in theory is going to be under livestock expense on the Schedule F. So these are really all the Schedule F accounts. But you don't want to call it livestock expense. All you do is just highlight it here and you can just change it. Okay. If you had a subheading, you could choose that too, but hit the save and close button. You'll see that it did add vet expense here. All right. And if you post to vet expense, it's going to hit the livestock other expense on the Schedule F. So um, we're doing as much as we can here to really simplify some things for you on the reports. But really, it comes down to the chart of accounts and making sure you're getting things set up right. And I know every farm is a little bit different out there. So if you're getting into a situation where you have a lot of questions, reach out to our team. We'd love to spend some time with you, even one-on-one, to kind of go through this and make sure you get the chart of accounts set up right. Because what you don't want to happen is set up something a little bit wrong here and then kind of regret it down the road. The other thing to point out is this chart of accounts, like for notes payables, like short-term, long-term. This is where you would set those things up here. So again, the three dots is where you go to add an account for like short-term notes payable. Again, we have the account type here from the drop down. So maybe this is a line of credit for 2026. The software again tries to type the name in here for you, but obviously you want to probably do a better job than that with the name of maybe an operating loan. The balance owed is $0 to get started here, so we'll just hit the save button. So again, this is kind of building things out, getting things ready. So when you start posting things in Traction, they will show up in your account register. All right, so let's go back to F&M Farm Checking Account. This is the one that we just did a few minutes ago when we got started. Uh, you can add the new button, do a new payment, choose the contact from the drop down. Don't have a lot of options here, so you can hit the add button. We'll just say this is Northwest Electric. We'll add with no details. And this is for $1,000. This was a check. And we'll say this started with check 501. A nice thing about Traction, again, you got this drop down here of like other notes payable, family living. I'll touch on a couple of these here for you. So the other category, this is going to be all those expense accounts that you've set up in Traction already. So if this was like utility expense, but part of it was for farm use and the other part was more personal use that you don't want on the farm books, there is a way of doing this. You can say $750 was for farm use, but I'm going to hit the add row button. Instead of choosing other here, there is this family living option and you can add categories here. So a category for this might be home utilities and hit save. And so the home utilities for family living is $250. So this is one of those examples where I get a utility bill. Part of it is for farm use. The other part is for more personal use. That 250, I really don't want that showing up on my farm books for this Traction Farms LLC. So this is a way of kind of splitting things out a bit using family living, whereas things might be more personal versus farm use. I always recommend a memo here. And hit save and close. Okay. Oh, Yeah, we got to pick a drawing category here. There we go. So right here is my utility bill. The nice thing about this transaction, the next month for April, if I go back and add a new payment, and I pick out Northwest Electric here, you do have this use previous transaction button. Right there's that transaction. Pulls it up right back up on the screen for April. Change the date there, but if part of that was different, you can change the values here for personal versus farm use and just hit the save and close. This is for April and we're done. So I guess I kind of threw a lot at you with the chart of accounts and did a few transactions here in the account register. Is there any questions from the group?
This is Linda, I have another question. Back on this transaction, if you open that Northwest Electric a minute, you open it, click on it again.
Yeah.
What's
Yep.
the difference between description and memo?
Yeah, this is just another area where you can add some more information about that line, that row, particularly that row of information. You don't have to put any information in there or description if you don't want. It's just giving you more text to type in.
But
And a
the,
lot of
the
this is going to show up on the probably your detailed general ledger reports in Traction if you want to dig in a little bit more. There's just times where you have maybe a transaction of lots and lots of row items in a transaction, and there's just times where you might want to say, you know,
yeah,
might be a specific part or something that you want to type in there if it was for parts. There's just lots of different use cases why you might want to do that. But
and it's the memo line that's showing on the in the account register.
yes, this is the important one right here. The memo area is where I would, again, this is just my preference and what I tell people, I would be very descriptive here on the memo on these transactions because they are showing up on the account register here. And again, pretty much any report you get into the detail, the general ledger detail reports, you'll see those memos on there too. So I like a lot of detail in my account. Everyone's a little bit different when it comes to this, but I definitely would stress, put a little more detail in there, put a little more effort into your record keeping because that just makes it a little bit easier when you look at your account register to see what that was. Good question, Linda. Is there any other questions? I was trying to keep it to 30 minutes. I think I got through most of the things here. I think there may be just a few other things to point out if you're getting started with the accounting. Um, there is a nice area down at the bottom called integrations to point out. So the integrations you'll see on my screen, actually I've got John Deere Operations Center connected to Traction. So I just did that this morning, and it does take, I think, at least 24 hours for the farms and field names to start showing up in Traction and all your field records to show up in the queue. So mine probably aren't showing up yet, but when you do start to connect things, we try to make it easier. So if you're just getting started, and you do happen to have John Deere Operations Center or Climate Field View, I would be careful, but I would say make sure that you got the farm names, field names set up correctly in those accounts in John Deere and Climate before you start connecting them to Traction. Otherwise, when you start looking at your resources here, your farms and fields, um, you know, you're going to have probably a bunch of the same field names and everything that you saw in John Deere Ops show up in Traction. So if you had a mistake in John Deere, you want to kind of take the time and fix that before you start connecting the Traction. But there is a lot of value to that. Like if you do have machines that you want to connect to, if there happens to be anybody here that's got a Keystone Cooperative or FS account, do business with those two co-ops. We have an integration with them too on the bill side where you can seamlessly bring bills in to Traction. This list will continue to get bigger and we'll continue to work with other companies. So these are the ones that we support today. But if you're just getting started, these things don't really impact like your chart of accounts right away. But It definitely makes the data side of it a little bit easier if you start connecting to them and be able to pull that into traction. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, I think I will wrap it up with just one more slide for you. But if you have more questions, I'll hang on until everyone hangs up. But we'll have some other webinars coming up. We just released our April webinar list. The one actually April 8th, I'm really looking forward to because we just did a bunch of changes in our land agreements and traction. So we'll be kind of showcasing what that's all about on April 8th. And then we'll get into a deeper dive into the climate and John Deere integrations on April 15th. I was able to talk to Barbara, and she's going to join us for that one. So she'll be kind of guiding everyone through the ins and outs of how to connect to your climate John Deere account. And then we'll get back into some more accounting. We'll cover accounts payable reporting. And then finally in April, we'll get into field profit center analysis. So we will kind of fine tune things. All these webinars kind of build on themselves. So if you happen to join, that's great. We will send you the recording even if you can't join. But these are some great webinars coming up, and I'm pretty excited about some of these topics that we'll be talking about. So make sure you sign up. Last chance. Any questions? Okay. Everyone have a great day, and we will see you at the next webinar. Thank you.